Welcome to Wilson Talks TM. I'm Andy Wilson, and in this episode, we are going to talk about something that everybody loves, especially working in technology, and that is requirements. Now, I remember when I started my first big project, and I was one of the data engineers, and I remember starting this and having to pull together the requirements, and this was to ensure that what we were building matched what the business were expecting and giving us something to test against. What were the column names? What were the data types? What was the business definition for things like a data dictionary and to support quality rules? And I remember spending days looking at these requirements and pulling them together in Excel. And that's what we would use to effectively build this data mart. And I was thinking, what would have happened had we have not had those requirements? And I remember starting out, and this was a trainee BI developer when I was starting out, and I remember the senior developers, the senior BI developers, they would vet the user stories, change requests before they got passed down to people like me who were trainee at that time. And what they would do is they would push back on things that didn't have requirements. So I didn't get that exposure until later on in my career, where if a user story, if a change request did not have enough requirements, I had to push back. And the reason is quite simple, because of the interpretation of the developer versus what the business want. Now, if you don't have that business interpretation of exactly what they're expecting, you are building blindly. And the, to use another analogy, and I really don't like this one, but I think it just highlights how important it is to have the requirements. I'm going to switch to Game of Thrones, and if we take season 8 as an example, for those who have watched it, basically, I don't want to create any spoilers, but season 8 was based off the production team, and they would produce that series. Prior to that, it was all based on the book that was written by George Martin. So this was black and white. This is what the story is. Now, what happened season 8 was the interpretation of the production team, and they were under a lot of pressure to actually finish the season. Actors wanted to move on to different projects, and so it was down to that production team to deliver something. And what happened? Customers, stakeholders were in uproar. They wanted it reworking. It was not the ending that they wanted for Game of Thrones. It was good, don't get me wrong, and you'll have to watch it for yourself, but it wasn't what they wanted, and they didn't feel that it was true to the whole story of Game of Thrones. Now, this happens in technology. If you don't have the requirements, you open yourself up for rework. Now, another company that does requirements extremely well, and every product that you buy off them has requirements, because the requirements help whoever picks up this product build it. And that is Lego. Now, imagine if every Lego box that was sold, and we're talking these ranging from a few pounds to hundreds of pounds, imagine buying those boxes of Lego, and they are no longer boxes but clear bags, and on the clear bag it says, "This is a shark. I want you to build a shark. I want you to build the Eiffel Tower." Me as a developer, I have nothing to gauge against. I know what the Eiffel Tower looks like. I know what a shark looks like in my mind, but I have nothing to compare against. So really, it's my word against the stakeholders' word. Now, because developers engineers, people in tech are often funded by different departments for the work that they are doing. What you'll find is that the customer, the stakeholder, is generally right, and you can advise. So what happens then is what I've previously mentioned, and that is the rework element. So next time you're picking up a user story, change request, just check out the requirements. It is much easier to go back to the business at the beginning before you've created any software than it is during or at the end. And that way you will save yourself a lot of frustration, and hopefully the speed to market that you're aiming to improve will increase.